Hi, my name is Lisa Parker. The title of my speech is The Life of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci once said, "The artist sees what the others only catch a glimpse of." This statement holds true as we walk through this influential man's life and focus on a few prominent moments, like when he became an apprentice in his early life, and then moved to Milan in his midlife, and then finally to France, where he spent his final years. Every good story has a beginning, so we'll start in his early life. Leonardo was born April 15, 1452 in Vinci, Italy. He was an illegitimate son of Serpero and Caterina, who was just a peasant girl. He was one of 12 siblings and grew up in his family's estate in Anciano and was raised by his grandfather. When he was about 14 to 15 years old, he had moved to Florence to go on to be an apprentice at the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, who was a student of Donatello. It was during his time at the workshop that he collaborated on the baptism of Christ. He eventually left the workshop in 1477. However, before then, in 1472, he joined the Guild of St. Luke, a Florentine group that consisted of doctors and other fellow artists. Moving away from his early life, we move on into his midlife. In 1482, he had moved to Milan and was listed in the royal registry as painter and engineer of the Duke. Between the years 1483 and 1486, he was commissioned to do the Virgin on the Rocks, which he ultimately abandoned due to disagreements that also resulted in a very lengthy legal dispute. During his time in Milan, he had only done 6 paintings. However, he did go on to create the smoky paint effect style that would become known as sfumato. Between the years 1495 and 1498, he was commissioned to do the Last Supper, which was painted in the dining hall of the convent of Santa Maria in Del Grazi in Milan. Transitioning away from midlife, we go on to late life. In 1499, he'd moved to Venice. It's important to know that in the last 20 years of his life, he moved around quite a bit due to political climate and commissions and work and other various reasons. However, in 1502, he joined the court of Caesar Borgia and was deemed senior military architect and general engineer. It was in 1503 that he began working on various projects like Virgin and Child with St. Anne, the Battle of Angari, and the famous Mona Lisa, which is currently on display in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. In 1513, he moved to Rome, but he had only spent 3 years there. It was King Francois I had called and invited him to France, and it was then he was titled first painter, architect, and engineer to the king at the French royal court. Him and the king maintained a very close relationship until the day that he died on May 2nd, 1519, at his chateau, Clos Lucy. As we conclude and reflect on how this man started off as an illegitimate son that went on to become an apprentice at one of the most well-renowned workshops of its time, not only that he went on to be recognized by the royal family for his achievements in the arts, science, and in engineering. In addition to his contributions and achievements like the Last Supper and the Mona Lisa, which have become pillars of history that have gone on to inspire future generations even centuries later, even though Leonardo da Vinci had died in 1519, his legacies continued. Now, this doesn't even scratch the surface of the multifaceted genius that is Leonardo da Vinci. However, I'll end here with a sketch, one of his most famous sketches, which is called The Vitruvian Man. My works cited are from 3 different websites, which is the Art Story, Museum of Science, and the National Gallery. Thank you.